Buy2wayradios.com. Check, check. Buy2wayradios.com.
It's the Two-Way Radio Show.
And welcome to the Two-Way Radio Show. I'm Rick Savoya.
And I'm Danny Feemster.
And this is the podcast about two-way radios for business and consumer communications. Today we introduce the Ocean KG-XS20H Tri-Band Mobile Amateur Radio and talk about its features. We'll also take some of your questions from our blog, YouTube channel, and our forum at twowayradioforum.com. Our show is sponsored by Buy2wayradios.com, the source of two-way radios and radio accessories for businesses and consumers since 2002. Buy2wayradios.com, your radio specialists. When Ocean came out with the KG-XS20H in the summer of 2021, it was well received, and it quickly became a popular option as a GMRS mobile radio. Then the KG-XS20H Plus arrived, and it added even more to the experience. The amateur community noticed it, and it wasn't long before the inevitable question arose. What about a version of the KG-XS20H for hams? Now, here it is, and it's a tri-bander. We're excited to announce the KG-XS20H.
Yeah, this is a follow-up, sort of, to the KG-935H that was released, a couple of months ago, Rick?
Mm-hmm.
Is that about right? The 935H was also a tri-band ham radio version of a popular GMRS radio, the KG-935G. So this is sort of the same idea with the KG-XS20H, where we have a tri-band ham version of the popular GMRS mobile radio.
Well, we have really had some great responses from the original XS20H and then the Plus, and this one brings something new to the table.
I guess just to clarify, there's no Plus on the KG-XS20H, but it does incorporate all of the features that were part of the XS20H Plus. But the big feature is that it's tri-band, I would say. Mm-hmm. It supports 2 meters, 1.25 meters, and 70 centimeters, and can receive on a range much wider than that. Mm-hmm. It has a full color display, sort of like the XS20H and the 935H. You can select multiple themes. It has weather alerts.
Mm-hmm. Well, some of the key features, of course, include the 999 custom channels, which, these days people expect a lot of customizable channels on their radios. So I don't know that this is really a super big deal, but it's still, that's a lot of channels, a lot to work with. And the simultaneous dual channel receive, people find that very, very useful. So that's a lot to be said for this radio here.
I agree. The one stat line that most people are going to want to know is the power. What kind of power does it put out? Mm-hmm. And this radio does 20 watts, and it is a compact mobile form factor. So it's a little too small to do like high power 40, 50 watts, but 20 watts is sufficient for most all mobile applications. And it's a very tiny radio.
Yeah, I have one right here next to me, as a matter of fact. And to show how small it is.
You can tell the radio is about the size of the hand mic.
I can put my hand around this thing. Look at that. Of course, I have big hands, so take that as you will. But it's I can still wrap my hands around this thing. And yeah, the hand mic is, look at that. The hand mic is almost, as you were saying, it's almost as big as the radio itself. So that's something.
And what I hear from people is that size is very important as far as mobile radios go, because a lot of people are not going to be installing this in their vehicle permanently. They're going to be, putting it in a seat or putting it in a temporary location or something like that. So it's not size matters. It needs to be the smaller the better.
Yeah,
is what we hear. Also, being that this is 20 watts of power, that is low enough that you can plug it into a 12-volt port or a cigarette plug in your car and power it. Whereas a more powerful radio, like a 50-watt mobile, is going to blow your fuse. This 20-watt XS20H can plug right into a 12-volt outlet, power the radio at full power for most vehicles anyway, and you're good to go. And it even includes that 12-volt adapter.
Yes, it does. And, that's one of the reasons why I put the XS20G as a mobile in my car, because I could just, it wasn't a permanent wiring issue. I could just plug it in and plug in the antenna, the external antenna, and go. And if I want to move it, like, for instance, I had to take my car into the car wash a while back, and it had to be serviced a couple of times since I put it in. And when that happened, I didn't really have to worry about leaving the radio there. I could just, take down the external antenna. I could just unplug the radio and take it out of the car temporarily while they were doing the work on it, and it wasn't a big deal at all. So I kind of prefer, even though it's only 20 watts, I kind of prefer having a radio like this in the vehicle as opposed to having a full 40 or 50 watt mobile radio in there. And yeah, the power, there's a lot to be said for the power, but you know what, when it comes down to traveling on the road, at least in the area I live in, there are plenty of repeaters around, things like that. It's not really that big of an issue to me.
Another thing I like about this radio is it's a great option to install in a UTV or like an off-road vehicle. And it is a little more weatherproof than many mobiles out there. We don't usually talk about the weatherproofing of this radio because there's a discrepancy. The radio itself, I believe, is IP666, which is very, very good.
But we really don't advertise that much, just, because
well, the problem is, and I'll be honest with everyone, the problem is the hand mic.
Yeah.
The hand mic is not as weatherproof as the radio itself. The hand mic is, I believe, IP55.
I think so.
Well, we can't really advertise the radio as being IP66 if the mic is lower than that. But that's something to be aware of if you're considering the radio. It is a good option for a lot of UTVs or off-road vehicle applications.
Well, there is another aspect to consider, and that is how folks installing this radio wind up attaching their feed line to it, their external antennas, because if you really know what you're doing when you're installing this thing, you can set it all up so it's really waterproof and weatherproof all the way. But if you're just kind of plugging it in, the radio itself and the mic are not the only things to consider when you're weatherproofing a radio for something like an ATV or something like that. You have to consider all the wiring and everything else.
Yeah, you have to think about the connections, power as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You don't want
absolutely.
the power adapter to be exposed to water.
So we touched on the key features of the KG-XS20H. And being that this is an amateur radio, of course, it's a tri-bander supporting 1.25 meters, 2 meters, and 70 centimeters. And it has up to 20 watts of power, as we already talked about. And we discussed the 999 custom channels, the simultaneous dual channel receive.
Full color display. Don't forget that. For custom themes as well, built into the radio.
And 2 programmable keys. And folks have gotten used to having these programmable keys on the radio simply because it gives them added functionality, which actually gives you a lot more power over the radio. And I'm saying power, I'm not talking about wattage. I'm talking about your control over the radio and what it can do. I think it's very important. So having two programmable keys, there's one here on the side of the of the speaker mic, and then one on the radio itself. And I had to check and make sure it was still there. Yes, two programmable keys. And you mentioned the NOAA function, the NOAA radio and the NOAA weather alerts. Some of the other features that it has, I think that is pretty much common to most radios now. You can tune specific frequencies directly on the radio. And so it has that frequency mode. We have, 3 channel modes and a frequency mode.
Right.
And this has cross-band repeat capability. So that's nice to have in this little radio.
I would say feature-wise, it matches up pretty well to the 935H handheld.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a fan of the 935H, this is sort of the mobile version of that radio.
It is. It's missing some of the themes that are included in the 935H, but it does have the 4 basic themes in here, the color themes, and that gives you something.
Yeah, I think that it matches up very, very well with the 935H. It's not one-to-one. If you go through the features, you'll find this one has something that this one is missing. But in general, there's a lot of overlap between the two radios, as well as not just the feature list, but the way they work as well,
Yeah.
like the menus and things like that, the features, the way you turn things on and off. So if you've got a 935G or 935H that you're happy with, and you're looking for a mobile, this may be a good option just because it's going to be seamless to transition from one to the other. They are so similar in the way they work.
Well, the menu, just for a second, for those who are really not familiar with some of the Ocean radios that we carry, the menu isn't just a mashup of different functions and different options in there. The menu is organized, and it is done so with a lot of forethought. It's organized so that you can find the various menu options quickly. And this makes programming a lot easier. And I saw a comment about the 935H today, this morning in, I think it was on the blog. And someone mentioned that, oh, no, it was a review. I'm sorry. It was a review on the 935H. And they were saying it's a great radio, but the programming from the radio is much easier using the programming software than trying to go through it and do it through the radio itself, because they found it kind of complicated. And I was thinking to myself, well, how can that be? Because this is probably one of the easiest. We try to make this as easy as possible to program directly from the radio. And yes, granted, programming can be easier through the programming software or through Chirp if the radio that you're using happens to support Chirp. This particular radio, though, I think the menu is organized so well that I can easily program, features and channels into this radio really without having to connect it to a PC and do any kind of programming through the software at all. And that's just me, but I just find it very, very simple.
I get their point. If you're not super familiar with the radio, and remember, Rick, you've written manuals on how to use these radios, so maybe you're coming from a different place than some of these other guys. You have to think about it. If you're coming from a very basic radio, like an FRS radio or something, and now you get this, there's 60 plus menu options. So even if they're organized very, very well, we have to name these menu items. We're limited to about I think 8 or 10 characters, and how long maybe it's 9 characters.
I think it's 8, isn't it? Maybe.
I think it's 9 for maybe the 935 is 9. The XS20 maybe 8.
Well, I won't quibble over a character.
Neither here nor there. Sometimes it's hard to summarize a feature in 8 characters. So I could see you're scrolling through the menu like, what is this? What is this? And when you use the programming software, it's spelled out a little. We get all the space in the world in the programming software to describe a feature, and we go through these before we get the radio from Ocean, and we say, "Hey, change this doesn't make sense. Rename this in the software. Make the text say this so that it's more user friendly." And you just have more characters to play with in the programming software than with the radio. So I can see. We try to make them simple to use, but we also have to make them powerful.
Yeah.
We want them to be the best radios out there. So if you want it to be powerful, you have to have 60 menu items.
That's true. I mean, if you want simple, just go buy a little FRS radio that has, 22 channels and does nothing but power on and maybe enter a privacy code or two, and that's about it. But if you want features, there's that trade-off. You're going to have to.
I would put this
to do it
for a radio. This feature packed, I would say it's as user friendly as anything out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. So with that having said, what are some of the other features in there? Well, we've got the CTCSS and DCS tones and codes. It supports pretty much all the usual ones. You've got the split tone and code support, which is always good to have, especially when you're connecting to repeaters. You have the tone scan, the CTCSS and DCS tone scan, where you can, if you don't know what tone or code the other person calling you is using, you can do a scan for it and try to pick it up. That's in addition to all the regular channel scan and the priority channel scanning, that sort of thing. It has 10 scan groups. You've got the compounder, the scrambler, the DTMF functionality. The DTMF hand microphone is really handy for a lot of sending a lot of signals and codes and over and I think there's a lot of power to this little bitty radio, and it has, as was introduced in the KG-XS20H Plus, it has the night mode function, which will make it easier for you when you're using the radio in a vehicle.
Yeah, and that's assignable to one of the PF keys, and what. That came about because people were saying, "Hey, I need a brighter display during the day than I have at night." So we thought, hey, how about we put night mode on here that basically just dims the screen at night.
Yeah.
Or when you press the button. It doesn't have to be at night.
Well, let's talk about the tri-band functionality for just a moment, because for hams, I mean, you have the three bands, 144 to 148 on VHF, 420 to 450 on UHF, and then you have the 220 band, the 1.25. Now, that's for transmit and receive, but you can also receive on a little wider frequency range here. You've got 136 to 174 megahertz, almost 175 megahertz on VHF. You got the 222, 225 range there on 1.25 megahertz, and the 400 to 479, or almost 480 megahertz on UHF. So you have a very wide receive range on this.
Yeah, that receive range will cover GMRS. It'll cover all the business frequencies. Same thing on the VHF side, that you've got all the business frequencies in there in your receive range. And I believe the marine frequencies are in that 136 to 174 range as well. Mm-hmm. So you could receive all of that with this radio. And
it has FM radio mode on it, so you can pick up.
That's true. We should list 79 or what is it? Where does FM radio start? 80 to 109 or something.
107, I think. But there is another feature here. I don't know if it's even worth mentioning it or not, because it has a stopwatch built in, like some of the other radios do.
You with the stopwatch. You're always talking about every time you got to mention the stopwatch.
Because I think it's a useless novelty, in my opinion. I think it's a totally useless novelty, but it's in there. if you really need a stopwatch timer, there you go. I don't know why,
You're like,
but
how long is this guy going to talk for? You hit the timer. Yeah.
probably use it to time out this show. But I mean, there are a lot of features. This thing's jammed.
Well,
This little
I
tiny
think we
radio
got
is
it covered with
jam-packed.
how much is this radio? That's what people are really asking
Well,
themselves. That's what we need to get to.
you'd expect to pay a lot for it, wouldn't you? It's actually pretty reasonable, I think, for a price of $199.99, and that's what the price is right now at launch. $199.99 for this little radio. I think it's a pretty good deal, and it comes
And
with a 1-year warranty also.
that is the same price that the XS20G has sold for a long time. But we have to caveat the price on this episode because I don't know if you've been watching the news, there are currently 145% additional tariffs on products being imported from China.
Yeah.
And the KG-XS20H is imported from China. So 145% tariff is going to be very, very bad as far as prices go. So hopefully that doesn't last. But the problem is we only have a small shipment of these because this is our first shipment. Usually we limit our first shipment so that we can QC the first batch and make sure that we don't find any problems internally. We also let a week or so go by with customers to get the radio just to make sure nothing unexpected comes up before we order a larger batch of radios. Well, this tariff situation has happened right in the middle of receiving this batch of radios. So I don't know how long it's going to be before we get another batch of radios. So once they sell out, I expect there'll be a period of time where they're out of stock.
Now, this is contingent on the current situation right now because as of today, we're recording this now in the middle of April, that's where things stand with the tariffs. But as we've seen already, that can change pretty much on a dime. So who knows what it'll be like a week from recording or a week or two from the release of the radio. So it's just something to keep in mind. It could go either way, or we might still be where we are right now in the time of a week or two. So
it could be worse in a week.
It could be better or worse.
You never know. Never know.
Let's think positive, and it's going to be better. But just in case, it is something to keep in mind. So if you want to be the first on your block or in your neighborhood to have one, it's probably not a bad time to take a look at them now.
No, I would encourage, if you think that this radio is going to be something you're interested in, I would encourage you to buy it sooner rather than later, because my expectation is that within a couple of weeks, they're going to be gone. Yeah. And then they may not be back for a while after that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good to know. So if you have any questions about it, of course, you can always contact us. Give us a call at 1-800-584-1445 or get in our live chat at bytowirradios.com weekdays, and we'll be able to better answer your questions. In fact, we might be in a better position at that point to be able to direct you as to what things are happening moment by moment with the tariffs. So, give us a call or shoot us an email or whatever.
Yeah, our sales staff. If you happen to be listening to this episode and you notice they're already out of stock, then check with our sales staff. They'll let you know if there's been an update with the situation. Believe me, if there's some kind of pause or a large reduction in those tariffs, we'll get our order in very quickly, and hopefully Ocean will be ready to ship the product to us pretty soon after that. But I would expect at least several weeks of out of stock.
Well, since we're on that topic about checking for current status, for those of you who are not aware, on any of the models, any of the Ocean radios, and this goes true for some of the accessories and some of the other items that we sell on the site. If you do see that it's out of stock on the product page, there is usually a link there and to where you can sign up for stock notifications, where you're just wondering, well, when is it going to be back in stock? And I want to get mine as soon as it gets back in stock. You can sign up. It's an email. It's free to just sign up for the email for stock notification. We don't spam you on everything or anything like that. It's pretty much for the stock notifications, and you can just sign up and put your email address in there, and you'll get the latest notification as soon as everything's back in stock, and you can say, hey, yeah, it's there. I can go get it while I can. So, any other discussion or anything else about this new XS20H radio?
I think that gets it. And we're going to be kind of low key about this launch. You might not see as much email or YouTube as you normally would when we launch a radio, because simply the stock is low. So we expect to run out. We want it to kind of last as long as possible. So you may see not as much on this right now, but maybe we'll bring it back around in a couple of months once everything is settled out and stock is good on this model.
All right. Well, we have some comments and questions from our blog, YouTube channel, and our forum at twowayradioforum.com. The first one is a comment from Justin. And Justin says, CB radio is more than simply something from the 1970s. It is still going strong today. CB radio is a great way to communicate and stay in touch. The arrival of FM opens up a broader market for manufacturers, as some people will buy a new radio with AM, FM, or AM SSB FM. And that's from Justin.
Who said something? Who said something bad about CB radio? I didn't say anything bad about CB
there's
radio.
There's a lot of debate about whether CB is still dead or not, or if it's going strong. It's still that debate. We did a podcast episode about that from some time back, and we've done blog articles and things like that. But it's still an ongoing debate, I guess.
Is that in response to us maybe mentioning that a lot of the CB guys are moving over to GMRS? Because that
sure.
is happening. You can't deny that.
Well, this next one is from Michael, and he's asking a question. Is there a standard tone for some GMRS channels? Let's say like the ones you've allowed to have repeaters on. Is there a standard that could be used for? Let's say you go from one place to another place that you don't have to change the tone like a flat standard tone. Can you please let us know about that? I understand it's all 141.3. I don't know if that's true or not, and that's from Michael. There isn't one. There's no standard tone or a home tone for all of them. It's just whatever tone you want to use, pretty much.
Yeah, you really need to check the repeater directory or something like that if you're looking to connect to a repeater. You do see some tones are much more popular than others, but I wouldn't say there's a standard, that's for sure.
Here's a comment from Adam. He says, congratulations on your 200th episode. That's from Adam. Thank you, Adam. I really appreciate it. And now it's episode 201. There you go.
I can't believe it. I can't believe we've done 201 of these.
Yeah.
That seems like a lot.
It'll just keep on going. This one is from Freed, I guess, or Freedy. And Freedy says, I've got more than a few Ocean HTs and extra batteries. Are there any resources to show which batteries work with which models? I'm not worried so much about the desktop chargers, just working on the radios, so when in the field, I know which battery to grab. And that's from Freedy. And I'm glad you asked that question. It's an excellent question, and we do have an answer for you. We have an article on our blog that lists all of the current Ocean models, and I keep it updated. As a matter of fact, I updated it just last week, I think, for the new KG-705F FRS radio. from Ocean. That we've not talked about really, but no, we may sometime in the future. But I have a chart on this blog article, or in this blog article, that lists all of the current models that we carry, along with all of the power options for each one, and the batteries, including all the batteries. So you can cross-reference that chart and see which batteries are cross-compatible with other radios. So that should be a really handy chart for you. It's called Ocean Handheld Radio Battery and Power Compatibility, and it's available on our blog at by2wayradios.com. And our last one comes from Sean, our good friend Sean, in the forum, and he's responding to episode 200, or 200th episode of the podcast. And Sean says, thanks for another interesting podcast. I appreciate you guys sticking with it for so long, as I know it is a lot of extra work recording and editing the shows. I worked the midnight shift for almost 40 years and listened to late night AM radio. I now listen to podcasts more than any other medium. I like that you guys talk about more than just ham. I have moved away from amateur radio for the most part and use GMRS with the family, so it is nice to hear a podcast that deals with both. Keep up the great podcasts. Oh, still waiting to see if you're going to offer a 701 size version of the Mellow Wave GMRS antenna. And that's from Sean. Well, Sean, first of all, thank you very, very much for the comments and for the kind words. And we appreciate you sticking with us for all these shows.
Definitely.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of comments from people that say, and you've even said this before yourself, that podcasts are pretty much your go-to thing now instead of radio. And
for sure. I haven't listened to actual over-the-air radio in, probably years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I literally never listen to over-the-air radio anymore. I mean, broadcast radio. Obviously, I listen to radio, two-way radio.
Well, I am in a lot of different podcast groups. And some are podcasters, some are listeners, some are both. And that's a common thread that's going on right now. Not saying that radio is dead. No, we're talking about radio. We're talking about terrestrial.
If you don't want to say it, I'll say it. Radio's dead.
But yeah, podcasts are pretty much taken over.
Radio's dead. I'll declare it. If you don't want to declare it, I'll declare it. It's dead. Podcast win.
All right.
And YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube is pretty big too. Well, I guess that does it for the comments and questions in this episode. Send in your comments and questions for Danny or myself to show@by2wayradios.com. If you want to know more about today's topic or about two-way radios in general, check out our forum discussions at twowayradioforum.com. You can subscribe to the Two-Way Radio Show directly from our website at twowayradioshow.com, or hear it just about anywhere you can find a podcast. And you can subscribe by email. Click subscribe by email on the Two-Way Radio Show podcast page at twowayradioshow.com. Enter your email address, and you'll get the latest episode of the Two-Way Radio Show as soon as it's released. Well, Danny, I guess that does it for this episode. Before we go, any final comment?
I don't have anything else.
All right. Well, today's show is sponsored by TWRS.com. Whether you're searching for two-way radios for general consumer or business use, Buy Two-Way Radios can help you find the best solution for your needs. Enter the promo code SHOW at checkout and save an additional 5% off your order. Give us a call at 1-800-584-1445 or enter our live chat at buytwowayradios.com. Well, everyone, as always, thanks for listening and watching. And until next time, for the Two-Way Radio Show, I'm Rick Savoya.
And I'm Danny Feemster.
And we're out.